Oh, Bitcoin, you're all set up, and it's a new week of new opportunities.
Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let.
Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Wish you a very happy and healthy start to your new week over here from actually a bright and sunny Helsinki, Finland. I've been up since like 4:30 a.m. setting up the new computer, which I'm really happy about, but also a little bit underslept as well. And now that I look at Bitcoin, because this is a little bit of a fresh look for myself, as I do want my ideas to be as organic as possible, things are looking rather interesting here on just about every time frame that matters. So with that said, I think there's going to be a lot to discuss today, especially on the, especially even on like the higher term timeframes perhaps, which is going to set up, I do believe, for a week of fun and action. Anyway, and more importantly, opportunity. Anyways, I'm going to be spending most of the rest of the day getting all the new software set up for the new computer. But after that, assuming that everything goes well, perhaps maybe tomorrow or the next day, I'll be back on Twitch doing some live streams, which I'm really excited about. Also, as I've been saying, I do have another channel for gaming for all those who are addicted to gaming, just like me. If you're a nerd with TA and you're a nerd with gaming, definitely go check it out. It's at Total Krown. And again, I want to remind people, like, if that's not what you're interested in, please don't feel obligated to go. Don't go at all. You shouldn't go. It's not right. It's not right. But if you are that kind of person, then definitely go head on over, because it's been pretty damn fun to actually get involved in that. And again, the name is Total Krown, spelled the same way. Anyways, what else do I want to say before we get into this? Should we go look at the Krown trading application? Yes, we should. It can be found at app.krowntrading.net. It's 100% free. And more importantly, we do see that the open interest is taking that next leg up to the $900 million mark. Yesterday and the day before, in this past week, we're kind of operating between the $800 million marker and the $900 million marker. So I am looking at this to kind of confirm the next sort of phase change in Bitcoin, meaning that if we do break one of these higher term time frame ranges, then I really want to see this confirmed by seeing the open interest shoot up at least another 50 million, preferably another 100 million to get us up to 1 billion even, especially at the 1 billion marker. That would be massively helpful. But even right here, good enough is good enough, and price action does trump all. But I would keep that open interest read in the back of my mind's eye, because it will help confirm the next sort of phase if we do in fact initiate it. On top of that, we see the Bitcoin dominance more or less steady at that 67% marker, which tells me that we've been kind of hovering in the same area, which without looking at the chart itself, I would have to say that the Bitcoin dominance chart is probably still setting up for the long term. For the long-term move. I do look at that as more or less bullish, or at least that has been my read for the past month and a half, I suppose now. And that means that most alts, not all, but most alts are going to be getting crushed versus Satoshis, whether Bitcoin goes up or down. So we'll look at the chart a little bit later, but just blindly looking at that right here, I would say that was probably set up the weekly for a very good close. And looking at Bitcoin right now, does look like we're rather poised. Looking at the crypto fear and greed index, we are once again right at the the 50 marker. So neither greedy nor fearful, right there smack dab in the middle, neutral if that, which is very interesting to me, because Bitcoin's more than doubled off the lows now from 4,400 on a closing basis, and it's actually getting pretty damn close to confirming a major massive macro shift and breakout, and the market is not greedy right now, which is very interesting. So that has actually been, and I usually talk shit about that, but that has actually been the one redeeming factor, or the one thing that's really been consistent amongst the last like 2.5 months now of price action, that has been saying we're kind of like climbing the wall of worry right now. So let's go take a look at price action and see what's going on right now. Bitcoin on BitMexico did close very nicely for the weekly yesterday, closing basically, I wouldn't say on the highs, but right around the highs. This looks more or less good to me. Just looking at the weekly right here, I like this. And realistically, if I want to just mark off a level and kind of call it that, I'd say 10,150 to 10,200-ish region right here. That creates another higher high on the weekly, and we are in the process of making an uptrend at that point in time. Yes, Bitcoin will still, in order to confirm an uptrend, we'd have to come back down and set in a higher low somewhere, but one step before the next, of course. And if Bitcoin does do that, or even just takes out the prior high of this spike high on 10th of February at 10,550, On Mexico, again, check your exchanges. It will differ. I would look at one of those two to confirm the next sort of big leg up, which doesn't actually change around the macro. It will change around the long-term timeframes, and I would look for extension at the very least to about 11,500 overall. Does it happen in the same day? That's not really up to me or anything like that, but I would say that that would be where I'd be looking towards ultimately. And with momentum oscillators all pointing in the same direction, I would say that this is more or less good. Weekly Stokes back into the bullish control zone, and very, 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 very erect there. Weekly Jewel did give you the hodl your long signal on 13th of April, back down around 7,000-ish region, and then continuation above 8,000, and then weekly RSI also confirming a break of our descending, or sorry, our descending wedge right here. Our falling wedge, I should say, which doesn't look as good on spot price action, but does look a lot better on CMEs, which we'll go into in a second here. But what the way that I kind of interpret this is that we'd had been baking this consolidation for about a year long, going all the way back to July 2019, and just as of early May, we broke out, retested, and now having a very good reaction above. So I do like that read. And could it be that we're actually doing something more like a channel like this? Maybe, possible. Could be, at which point I'd be looking for a major top to be put in here. But, I go with the former assumption until essentially proven otherwise. And we'd be proven otherwise by coming back down below about 55. Sorry, the 55 read on the weekly right here, of which we can actually look at exactly where it needs to be. Where's my, let's do 55 right here. So as long as Bitcoin closes this next weekly dildo above about 9,000 or 9,050, it will well be above that critical pivot. So all's well and good, at least for right now, and Bitcoin still acting well in the early morning hours. Now, I don't really think that we're going to get too much of a move before traditional markets open back up at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm thinking of Chicago times, which is 8:30 a.m., which is actually kind of a good time for that. But things are operating well here. Looking at CMEs again, I think it's just a lot more obvious on CMEs right here. This one is clearly a falling wedge, which got resolved a couple weeks ago, came back down and retested last week on that pullback, putting in this dildo right here. And then so far, we do have a little bit of continuation, but I really need to see that confirmed with price action. So yes, momentum oscillators are looking more or less good and do suggest more upside and a confirmed breakout. Price action needs to follow through now. So we have seen, so to kind of like synthesize it down, the value in indicators that they're basically a derivative of price action, which means that they can tell you things before price action actually does and help formulate a little bit of a bias alongside many other things. And so they're naturally going to tell us these sort of things before they actually happen on price action. But now, in order to really get that full-on follow through and target at the very least that next level of about 11,500, I need to see either a tick above the prior swing high at about 10,550. Again, check your exchange, or 10,500, or a weekly dildo closure above 10,150, 10,200. That would transact that next $1,000, $1,500 move to like 11,500 to 12,000 bucks. But until that happens, I would remain a little bit conservative. I mean, that's just kind of my style. I understand that more aggressive people out there are saying, Krown's a pussy. Fuck off, you bitch. And I'm going all in. And you should too, you weak hands fuck. I don't know. Is that an insult? I don't know. But looking at the lower term timeframes here and kind of following up on yesterday's analysis. Actually, let's go back to the daily for now. Bitcoin just put in and confirmed a higher low yesterday by taking out the 15th of May high, and then we did hit our next target at about 10,000 bucks, but did not close above the critical areas. We needed to see a closure above the 618 Fibonacci retracement, which was also this nice blue box territory coming in from our last major breakdown in late February before a melt from 10,000 to 4,400, and also our big bad rejection coming in from China accepting Bitcoin back in October of 2019. I think I was on an airplane at that time too. So and also of course as well, the long-term descending trend line coming in from the $14,000 high about a year ago, June 2019, all coinciding in the same region right here, which Bitcoin is pretty much stuck at right now. So I would look at I would also look at that as as another signature to be aware of, but that isn't what gets the big move that I was referring to at the beginning of this video. That would beget continuation, extremely likely to at least test 10,500. personally speaking, at that point, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to double top out there. Can I be wrong on that? Yes, absolutely. But if Bitcoin were to take out the high of that prior one, I would look for extension, another $1,000, maybe 1,500 up to the next macro area. And that's the macro area that really gets exciting for the long term. That's when moon boops once becomes popular lexicon preps, as we do see that anywhere above 11,500 to 12,000 bucks right here, and not even say 11,500 on a weekly digital closure. We have a major change of behavior that goes back more than 2 years now, going back to January 2018. This was your 50% meltdown from 12,000 to 6,000, then your double top in February 2018 at 12,000 again. And then again in July 2019 at 14,000. On that run to 14,000. Then again in August 2019. And yes, if we do get back above that level, I would generally just be bullish for the long-term macro play. I don't really, yes, there's going to be ebbs and flows as with anything, but I wouldn't really be interested in taking shorts like really at all, except for like very, 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 very short-term moves. Of course, it is rather profitable to trade both sides, but I do think that at the end of the day, you don't really need to make this game any more difficult than it needs to be. The last 2 years have been rather difficult, getting this whole bullshit right here. But if you've survived this long, I don't really think it takes too much more patience to just wait for that next sort of confirmed change of behavior. And what's up, Lil Z? Good to meet you, man. You sound like a rapper, and I wish I could rap, but I can't. So if you know how to rap, let me know, baby. Let me know. And I don't know why I called you baby. Maybe you're not a baby, actually. Anyways, throwing on the the fuck am I saying right now? Anyways, throwing on the volume profile further confirms that anywhere above this 11,500 pivot, we see a massive change of behavior to the upside. Basically a complete vacuum above there. So volatility is gonna just shoot through the fucking roof. And then also, the technical term for this is actually institutional order flow, getting this front run area right here multiple times, just people getting their fills, or usually big institutions getting their fills above and then shoving it right back down. So, it is an area fraught with peril, but now because we are getting a little bit closer to the actual initiation of that, I do think that it's relevant to speak about once again. So yeah, looking at the weekly as well, we do see more divergence between the 21 exponential and the 55 exponential moving average right here, the yellow and the green. And to me, that's overall good. I like that. Again, alongside momentum also to point it back up, I look at that as more or less good. I just need to see a crossing of at least 10,500 on a wick, or a closure above 10,150 to 10,200, and that would really help formulate at least a medium term bullish case again for another $1,000, $1,500 move. By the same token, I haven't really spoken about the downside. So yesterday I did say that as long as Bitcoin remains above this pivot right here, 9,300, or I think is it 9,300 or 9,350? 9,300. As long as Bitcoin remains above 9,300, I do remain short-term looking for upside, and I did say yesterday my short-term target was 98.50, and if we take out and close above there on a lower-term time frame, I would look for extension to 10,000. We've gotten that. So now what? Well, I do think that this area still matters for the short term, this 9,300-ish region, but it's not really relevant for the medium or, of course, the long term as well. The area that's still relevant for the long term is this guy coming down here, our long-term uptrend support coming in from the March 13th low at 4,400 right here, booms, couple spikes right here again, and it's actually right directly in line with the 4-hour 200 exponential moving average. So I like the confluence there, does add on to the validity of it, and it would be medium current price action somewhere around 9,000. Actually around this blue box right here at about 9,100. So as long as Bitcoin's above 9,100, I am even short-term bullish. Or sorry, no, I can't really say short-term bullish because that offers up about $1,000 range. I'd say medium-term bullish though, and even long-term bullish. So if we do break 9,100, I do think that Bitcoin would have a quick return back down to about 86, 87. This blue box right here, probably another small bounce, and then I'd actually look for that. I'd probably look at that for some long-term down. Next target would be down to about 8,150, probably another small bounce there, and then potentially a low at 7,500 and potentially a low at 7,100. But I don't think that we'd bottom out here if we do break. Let's call it 8,700 now. We can move it up a little bit. And realistically, I don't really see any real red signs, red flags, motherfucker. How does this language work? I don't really see any red flags until Bitcoin breaks this level to the downside right here. Momentum oscillators on the lower term timeframes are still pointed north, it looks like. 4-hour Stochs still headed up, good. 3-hour Stochs going to be actually curling down right now, so a little bit of bifurcation here. 2-hour, the same thing, and hourly, actually the same thing as well. So you know what? Lower term time frames are saying that we're actually losing momentum here, or at least going to maybe play out a little bit of a pullback. I think an obvious pullback target would be somewhere back down around 9,500-ish region for short-term play. It looks like we do have bearish divergence on the hourly RSI. Yes, indeed, we do. How high does this go up to? We got it on the 2-hour as well. Would say that's mostly played out. What about on a 4-hour, though? 4-hour, technically no, because this is not a confirmed local high just yet. But if we were to take out this low right here, especially on a closing basis, that is about 9,700, few ticks below, then I would look for, I'd look for extension back down to this base here, the short-term base at 9,350. But like I said, the downside is difficult right now, just because the ranges are a little bit too close for me to really make much use of trading it, and until we actually break below about 8,700, or maybe actually no, 9,100 would work as well, just because that is about a 600 delta right there. And that's tradable. That's certainly tradable. But right now, things look more or less stair-stepping up. I mean, at the end of the day, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, and the trend will be your very best friend, and has been your very best friend going all the way back. I mean, realistically, it was really like the breakout above 8,000 that made me bullish right here. Obviously, I missed a lot of this right here during April, but that's just my style, and I will make that same mistake again. That granted, my sort of trading personality and whatnot, it's just the way that I trade, and I found it to keep me safe longer term. So looking at our lower term time frames here, what are we looking at right now? 4-hour looks. I'm trying to look for some on RSI. I don't really see anything particular there. I do see that we did meet, or we did spike up to this trend, or around this trend line, or in the process of spiking up to this trend line that I was speaking about the last day on historical volatility percentile, but we're still contracting in an overall phase here, as you can see, with an apex coming in somewhere around early June, which would suggest a resolution later this month, which we're actually already kind of in late May, or is it May? Late May already. We're on the 18th day of the 5th month of whatever year it is, 2020. Is that May? It might be May. Whatever it is, that's what it is. And so that would suggest probably in about a week, or maybe a little bit less than a week from now, we very likely do break this. I'd look for the moving average to remain in its positive slope, plus sustained at least two of these guys above this trend line to confirm breakout. But assuming that doesn't happen, in the next week, I'd be looking for resolution of the greater of the daily range on the week. Within a week actually, or at least statistically speaking, it's relatively probable for that. And when I talk about the daily range, or I should say the higher term time frame range, not to be confused with the macro time frame range. With the macro is, we're talking about the weekly resistance at 11.5, but right now it's focusing specifically on the daily. That would be this area right here that we're currently brushing up against, like right here right now. On a 4-hour total closing basis, I'd say it's about 10,000 even, just in line with this last closing high, which is quite literally at 10,010 actually. And on a daily total closing basis, any sort of a closure above the 618 Fibonacci retracement right here at 9,800 would probably do it for me as well, for that next extension to 10.5, and that's where the weekly timeframes start to take over again, and perhaps lift us off to about 11,500. Maybe not us, but the Bitcoin boulahs who associate their identity with Bitcoin itself. Anyways, looking at the daily, looking at the 12-hour right here, should remind myself that yes, Golden Cross still strengthening. Bots and algos seem to be playing this one as the moving average gain more and more divergence away from each other. More importantly, the daily is doing it as well, and we are above all major moving averages. I really have no reason to be bearish on this as long as we're above the yellow 21 exponential moving average, and that will be protecting that 9,000 to 9,100 short-term base. So if Bitcoin does break below there, then yes, I would look for a move back down to test the low 8,000s. I don't think that we're going to stop in the mid 8,000s. I do think that we'd end up in the low 8,000s, probably play out an anemic bounce, and then some significant downside into the low 7,000s. That's where I do think a low could be perhaps put in if that were to happen. But I don't really think that's the main consideration right now. I look at this as more or less good. Daily Stokes are still headed upwards and onwards, and they will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin price action is closing above 92.20 on a daily closing basis. So obviously a lot can happen in the day, but we're $500 above right now, and so far so good. Looking at daily RSI, I don't really see any major issues here. Just looks like a consolidation right at the edge of the bullish control zone, which is usually a good thing. Usually setting up to actually play out, or play out some well, what the fuck am I trying to say? Usually setting up to actually live within this territory for a little bit of time. That's what I'm trying to say. Jesus Christ, man. Sorry, well, my speech is just impaired right now. I've been looking at computers too much. You can tell. You can tell, man. Anyways, looking at the 2-day, I think that this chart's even more powerful here, and I think that the 2-day in general does a better job than the daily for 24/7 markets. Something to do with the weekend trading not really going on for most of that time. But looking at the 2-day total golden cross right here, green 55 and purple 200 gaining a little bit of divergence away from each other. I do believe that we close one tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And if the 2-day closes above about 97.75, I would look for momentum. Well, momentum also will turn back up to the upside. That's the 2-day Stokes right here, which is testing against the critical zone right now, which is actually very common to bounce off of that. Now, does it technically weaken over time? Yes, it does. Absolutely. What the fuck's going on this right here? Oh, never mind. Yes, it would suggest a loss of momentum overall, but typically you do get a pity bounce from there at the very least. And you see an example of it right here on, late January of this past year, gets a bounce right here. And that takes it all the way from 92.50 to 10,500. That's the last high that I'm actually comparing with. If we go to another example, perhaps back here, this is what you expect during strong trending markets. This was half of 2019 right here, going from April to June, and playing off that area is actually what you expect during strong trending markets, as I said. So, it's not a bad thing that it's stuck up here, but it needs to maintain up here and really not lose, especially the 65 marker to the downside. That would set it up overall well. 2-day RSI is looking okay as well. Looks like it wants to test the bullish control zone. I usually do look for a pushback on a test like that, but of course, first and foremost, price action. And if price action can even just tick above, did we tick above this high right here, 99.70? Yeah, we did on hold on, 99.70, 99.79. Hold on, let's go check out this one. 99.43, 99.70, 57. Okay, good as well. 99.45, 99.66. Yes. Okay. And what about Finex? I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. 99.38 and 99.44. I'd have to. I mean, this already looks fine to me. I don't really have a reason to be bearish here. And I could say even just from like a little bit more of a blind narrative here, as long as Bitcoin's above 9150 or even 9100, I'm bullish on the higher term timeframes, and that's a statement that I feel like is a little bit more digestible instead of like getting into all the intricacies of this with the lower term timeframes right now, because right now we are approaching higher term timeframe and even macro term timeframe ranges, which in my opinion, yes, you can trade the lower term time frames, but it's like one of those things, you don't want to lose sight of the forest in the woods, or whatever the fuck the saying is. You know what I'm trying to say. You don't want to lose sight of the big picture here, or at least I do not. And of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and that's that. So fair enough. 12-hour, what are we looking at here? 12-hour Stokes are actually pointed north once again, as we do see they will remain to the upside as long as you're above 9,500. So I do believe that solidifies 9,500 as a good short-term time frame range. As long as Bitcoin's above it, I really don't even have like short-term downside bias. Even though we literally are right at like the culmination of a shit ton of different resistances, but seeing as as Bitcoin has approached it this many times in the last month itself, right here, and of course going all the way back right here, and then a few times in 2019, usually around your fourth time plus, the probabilities of breaking above or breaking that same resistance or support, works both ways, becomes exponentially higher. So the more times that you do test it, it does get weaker. I mean, the sellers are losing their power essentially. But do they have enough? Do they have enough dry ammo to go in dry one more time before a legitimate attempt to the upside? Possible, but I'd say at this point, 6-7 times in the last year, I would say that that's unlikely. If I had to call right now, I think that Bitcoin's gonna break through to the upside. But again, my opinion is not relevant. I will trade technical analysis, not my opinion, and I suggest that you do the same, because you will literally be broke if you trade my opinion. I would be broke if I trade my opinion. I'm telling you right now, the only way that I'm able to stay in this game is by using statistical setups mediated by technical analysis with risk management and position management that over time generate good wins or good winning percentage. That's it. That's all it is. Okay. All right. So What else do we want to look at? I'm curious where the weekly reverse Stoke indicator is now. It's at 6,900, so pretty damn good there too. So yeah, just looking at this as well. I've covered this a lot, but I didn't really go into detail on it yesterday. But just looking at this, the yellow 21 exponential moving average, we do see that Bitcoin loves to play off of it on the macro. Anytime that Bitcoin is above it on a weekly closing basis, we're generally in a bullish cycle. Now, if you take that one step further and say, not only is Bitcoin above it, but it also has a positive slope, that is actually really, 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 really good, historically speaking, to keep you in, or maybe not you, but keep myself in the long-term bull markets and not get phased out by perhaps a move like this, where the slope did not necessarily go negative, except the price action actually did go below the 21. It says, hey, hold on a second here. We haven't necessarily seen a phase shift just yet. And then what do you know? Bitcoin goes all the way from like $90 to 1,100. Looks like half a year later to a year later. And then same thing to the downside. When it actually does switch to a negative slope and Bitcoin price action is below it on an open and closed basis, those are your long-term bear marks right here, more recently, all the way from 10,000 kind of down to this area right here at about 7,800-ish region. So this matters quite a bit. And what do you know? We are not only above it on an open and closed basis, but it's a pretty positive slope right there. If we take this just one step further as well, so now adding like 3 steps down the road, I suppose, we can put on the 55, which we alluded to already at the beginning of this video, and they're actually getting divergence away from each other. And you understand this already, most likely, intuitively. A lower period moving average trading above a higher period moving average, what does that tell you? It gives you two-pronged attack of understanding, what the general trend is. I mean, that's all a moving average really is telling you. Well, it tells you a lot of things, but if I wanted to break it down in that way, that's how to explain it. And I mean, as long as the weekly is above that area, I don't really have any like long-term reason to be bearish, even though I would probably get bearish below 9,000 again. Especially 8,700, I would get bearish below. And those areas have been naturally moving up over time as Bitcoin puts in this more and more constructive rally. So, now is also the time to, I think, be looking at the monthly as well, just because it is setting up rather well here. I have no reason to be bearish on anything that is above the yellow 21 exponential moving average, as the 21 also has a positive slope and is even above the 10 simple at this point as well, and lifting off as momentum oscillators are turning back up again, rejecting the bearish control zone. I mean, these are all very good things. Not only that, monthly Joule is giving you kind of like a hodl continuation signal, and monthly RSI is back above the exponential, maintaining the neutral zone. Looks okay. The RSI I could say I could go both ways on that one, but I would say for right now it looks fine, and it will remain above there as long as we're above 9,000. It looks like, yeah, it's a 55 read right there. So yeah, it looks fine to me, or at least for right now, as price action is, especially if Bitcoin closes this monthly above the last swing high right here at 9,350, 9,400, which we have another 2 weeks to go, which is a fucking eternity in cryptocurrency land. So understand, this message will self-destruct in like 5 minutes. But assuming that Bitcoin did close above this region, I would look at that as a damn good indication that Bitcoin will come back up and test around 11,000 to 11,500 at the very least. So yeah, a lot of good things going on here. 4 hours in an uptrend, but basically all time frames are in an uptrend up to, I mean, a weekly now, or sorry, not a weekly, but every time frame below that is in a confirmed uptrend. So the trend is your friend, I suppose. At the end of the day, it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. So I suppose right now would be a good time to go check out CMEs. I consider this a gap fill already, but do we come back down into about 95.50-ish region and test that area on the lower term timeframes? I don't think that would be problematic, really. That would probably be akin to this area right here on spot price action, right around 9,500-ish region. So, if Bitcoin were to come back down around there, I don't look at that as problematic. It's problematic when it starts to destroy the higher low structure on the daily, which our last higher low was again at about 9,300 on the dot. So any sort of a move below 92.16, the spike low right here, or a daily little closure below 9,300 will do it for reverting that stance, and I'd be looking for a test back down to the lower 9,000s at the very least, probably somewhere around the 21, wherever that ends up being. Although the longer that Bitcoin stays up here, the more and more it's going to get dragged above. So you can see that these things naturally are going to be working together, and there should be some good confluence there. Let's go take a look at probabilities. With regards to historical volatility percentile, let's put on the lower term time frame ranges right here. Once again, I'd say daily total closure above 10,000 is the obvious area right now for continuation. Another $500 at least, I'd say. Not going to happen instantly, or I don't know if it happens instantly or not, but ultimately I'd be looking for a move like that. And for the downside, a little bit easier for the short term actually. 9,300 is where I'd be looking towards. So let's go over here and check out what we got. I'm going to put in 10,000 for 4 hour. I actually want to see the lower term time frames probabilities here, just because it is in kind of an interesting place. I mean, it's going to have a chance to break it. This is on a 4 hour. I want to preface this conversation by saying this is on a 4 hour. On the next 4 hour closure, which closes in 45 minutes and 37 seconds, so we'll actually be able to see this by the time that I upload this video. There's an above target probability of about 13%, and the below target probability is 9,300, and that's less. It's like 1/10%, so it's not all that much. But what we really want to be looking at is a 12 hour and a daily though, and let's see what they show. So 12 hours, which closes in 4 hours and 45 minutes, probability of closing above the critical $10,000 region is 27.72%, which is very high. By contrast, the below target probability at 9,300, which destroys the higher low structure on the daily, is about 8%. So that's actually not that low, to be fair, for the downside. But for the upside, that is very high. So if bulls are going to take the reins and blast through, I do think that it'd be relevant to say that it could happen today or tomorrow. Looking at the daily, I'd imagine that those probabilities are just going to be even more high. And yes, indeed, 34% for the upside versus 16% for the downside. Now, the downside is decently probable here, to be fair. 16% is nothing to scoff at. It's actually relatively good. But 34% is even, well, it's about more than double better. So there you go. Just looking at this from that perspective, I would say that it certainly favors the bulls. Analyzing the rings on this using future, we do see that they are also pushing to the upside as well. So I'd say that gives a bias to the upside. Let's go look at it on current. Now on current settings, which is actually the right way that I should be doing it for today's daily total closure. I should have backtested this and checked it. I apologize. So I'm gonna have to take away that prior statement. The upside and the downside are actually very, very similar to for the daily closure. 25.75% versus 22.5% about. Now of course still favors the upside by a little bit, but you can see here that it's not a done deal, and very likely very likely we do see resolution to one side or the other, meaning above 10,000 or below 9,300 probably these next couple of days, but it's still, from a statistical standpoint, relatively similar. Let's go back to a 12 hour maybe and see how those ones change around. Yeah, 18% versus 14% on the 12 hour, so still favored for the upside, but actually not as cut and dry as what we were looking at before. And for the 4 hour, 4 hour shows, what the fuck? How is that right? 4 hours actually showing a 25% for this next closure above, which is incredibly good. 43 minutes to go. Keep your eye on that. 9,300 by contrast is 0.2%. No, is it 0.2? No, it's a 0.02%. Okay, cool. Alrighty, got that. Let's go check out Bitcoin dominance really quick. I'm curious how that one's operating right now. Holy shit, we're already 32 minutes into this video. I think we'll just make this quick then. Weekly looks good here. I'm still bullish on this, looking for 70 plus. Altcoin's gonna join a boo cake party. Let's go look at NAS futures. Oh, we bullish, baby. What did we say last week? High or low right around 8,900, and I would be looking for a retest of the prior high. And I do think that we're probably going to end up in this blue box somewhere right around 9,400. E-mini futures, same thing, probably aiming towards 29.25, so 292, 293 for SPY itself. And back onto Bitcoin, let's wrap this bitch up and send her off. Let's see. So again, lower term timeframes, I want to see either a 4 hour total closure above 10,000 to denote continuation, another $500 to 10.5. That's where the weekly takes over. If Bitcoin can exceed 10.5, even on a tick basis, then I would look for extension ultimately to about 11,500. That's where the macro timeframes come in. On a daily, the areas are a little bit more nice, I guess is the word I'm looking for. If Bitcoin can close above 9,800 on a daily, that looks good for continuation to the same targets that I just said. Going one by the next. And to the downside, I do believe that it's no longer this blue box right here that is the most relevant for the downside. It's actually, well, it depends what time frame that you're looking at. But as long as Bitcoin remains above 9,300, that protects the higher low structures. So I do look at this as a pivot for the short term time frames, also aligned with the 10 simple. And as long as Bitcoin's above it, I don't have any real reason to be looking for medium or long-term downside. However, if Bitcoin were to break it, I look for actually a quick move down wherever this trend line meets price action, which the longer that price action moves this way to the upside, the higher and higher that we'll get, of course. And I would have a bias change below, especially below about, is it 9,000 now? I was going to say this blue box right here, 8,700. 8,700 is the obvious area, but I actually would say like 9,100 probably does get it. I mean, if Bitcoin breaks 9,100 to the downside, yes, maybe we bounce again off this area right here, but I do think that we'd head lower, at least to test this guy right here again, and I'd be looking for probably some more downside overall after that, after some anemic bounces, but I'd want to see that one in real time. For right now, Bitcoin's approaching the same resistance it's approached a lot of times, and it's gonna have a chance to actually break it. So with that said, I'm gonna be signing off. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more Bitcoin magic net money analysis. Take care, and until next time.